This week in gaming, we might be getting another God of War game. A Bloodborne remake almost happened, and then it got shot down. Shot down, cold blood. Sony,
Shot through the heart.
yeah, and you're to blame from software. Sony pulls out of the PC gaming race and so much more. This is the Nerd Cave News, and I am one of your illustrious hosts, joined by my good friend and co-host, Derek Daniel. Derek, how's it going, my man?
It's going pretty well, man. You know, another week, another disappointing news cycle, as you can see here.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like, well, it's like we got the Highguard news, we got Bluepoint, which I wrote an article over on Substack about and everything. And then we also we got the news that we're finally going to get Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Like, we didn't know that we're going to get Assassin's Creed Black Flag resynced, right, like, or whatever.
Ubisoft is, you know, the Fort Knox of keeping secrets. Not.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude, I'm yeah. And then the whole we might be getting, which this is not true, but it was like, oh, the Fallout New Vegas remake scare that we had in the middle of the week, and Greg absolutely losing his ever-loving mind.
I kind of watched that live, and I was like, that is it's great. Like, it was a valid crash out, but it's also one of those where middle age is definitely Greg is going through a midlife crisis for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome, Amy. Welcome, Joe. Welcome, Chloe, and everybody else. We're live on all the places tonight. We're live on TikTok. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. We're live everywhere, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure to hit that like button, all of those good things. Hello. Koshi, welcome, TR9VR. Welcome, everybody, to the stream. We're going to be talking about all the video game news that you need to know tonight. And we love to start the show by jumping into what you've been playing. Derek.
So, I played a little bit of Expedition 33. I'm on the relationship quest with Mael, try and get her relationship up, which, there's a couple of characters, that you have to go on a mission and go to some new areas in the map to, up the relationship quest, and they always involve fighting a boss. This one is fighting one of the ancient creatures that you fight during the game. There's there's two that you have to get access from to go through and get to the paintress. Well, there's a secret third one that you do if you want to build your relationship with Mael. So I'm on that. I'm doing that thing. It's interesting. It's like you're climbing a high tower, which I think is like a prelude to like one of like the no, I don't want to say hidden areas, but it's like one of those one of those high level areas that you find throughout the overworld in the Endless Tower or whatever. So I think that's like prepping you. It's like, all right, you keep ascending. Maybe not. I mean, you're not finding endless waves of bosses, but I digress. It's getting verticality, as you can say.
Okay.
And then I did play a little bit of Sons of Sparta, a little bit more of that. It's just, I don't know. As much as I like God of War, it's just not pulling me like others have. And that's it's not a knock on it because of the gameplay style. There's just not much of a story. Like, there's interjections every once in a while, but it's just sort of like Kratos and Kratos and Deimos talking to each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like little lines of dialogue here and there, but mostly it's just like, hey, we are for Sparta. And I'm like, okay, you said that 1,000 times already. We get it. You're loyal to Sparta, as is every other Spartan that you come across. You're not different, bro. You're not special. I don't know.
But he is special.
Well, that's later on, like many years down the road. But I don't know. I still want to give it a fair shot, but it just is not grabbing me, especially coming off of Expedition 33, which did enthrall me for so long. The last 2+ months, it's just grabbed me. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm always excited for more God of War, but especially now that we know that they're remaking the Grease trilogy from the ground up with like new mechanics and stuff like that, is more enticing than, you know, something different in that universe. But, you know, as we'll talk about here in just a minute, there is a possible new game in the Norse realm that we might visit, but we'll get to that later. Zach, what have you been playing?
Dude, I've been playing a pretty good bit of things. So let's go good to bad.
Sit back and relax.
Good to bad. That
okay.
Or indifferent, I guess, would be more of the way I would put this. So first up, played a good bit of Death Stranding 2 this past Sunday, I think is when I played. And dude, it is so fun to build roads and monorail systems in that game. And I'm glad that I took the time to do so, because there was a mission where I built all of these roads and it was like, oh man, it's raining like crazy. Everything's flooding. Like you need to like build these bridges, like not because like you can build roads and they'll like cross the streams and all of that. But if you don't, you have to build bridges because you'll literally get swept away.
Right.
But I'm literally just driving down my nice paved road, and I'm just like, ha! And I'm not having to deal with any of this. None of this. It was it was nice. And just getting some different tech in the game and the story progressing. I got Elle Fanning's character in there, and I was playing out in the living room, and there was this really cool moment where she just like shows up and shows off, if you know what I mean. If y'all have played Death Stranding 2, y'all will know what I'm talking about. Absolutely.
If you know, you know.
Yes, absolutely boss sauce, dude. It was so epic. So I was super stoked with that. And then last night I was playing, I played Citizen Sleeper a good bit, like throughout the weeks and everything. But last night I hit several of the endings of the game. And what's nice is like you can hit an ending and it'll spit you back into the game. So you don't have to play all of it again, thankfully. Because some of the endings are like, I hit the first one, I was like, that's an ending.
That sort of reminds me of like the video, because Nier Automata had so many different endings, but one of them is just like, oh, you have to luck out and get a random fish that's poisoned and it kills you, and then like, all right, game over. I'm like, excuse me?
Okay. I haven't heard of that, but yeah, like there were several of them, and there's one specifically where you meet a dad and his daughter. She was an orphan, and he like brought her into his family and everything, and it was emotional. It was just really well done, because you help him and you're helping him like try to create a better life for Mina, that's the daughter, and everything. There's a lot of intrigue and all of these different things, and man, I've just absolutely enjoyed it. I think I have a few more endings that I can get, and then I'm going to start into I don't know if I'm going to jump straight into Citizen Sleeper 2, just because there's so many games that are about to come out. We're getting Crimson Desert next week. We're also getting Legends for Ghost of Yote is coming out next Tuesday. So there's a lot of other things that I'm wanting to jump into. I also want to jump into Octopath Traveler. So there are a lot of things that I'm going to be jumping into. But Derek, I did the Server Slam this weekend as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And man, this game, I don't feel like it knows if it's coming or going. Okay. And not that the gunplay wasn't good, not that the maps weren't interesting, but it felt like there was a lot of wasted time in each match that I played. I probably played about 2 hours, and it didn't feel like Halo, where it was like, because you know when you play a game, it just feels right, and never felt right to me. The tutorial didn't feel right. It felt like a lackluster version of Apex Legends. And I was just like, is this me? And I've seen more and more people say this, but it just doesn't hit, Derek, like at all. Like I literally was like playing through like different aspects of the game. And of course I use the healer class. That's my favorite to use.
Right.
And it felt like and even when I wasn't playing as a healer, I felt like my character was like paper thin.
Mm. So like no shields or anything like that.
Yeah, and you'll be walking for a long time and it feels like you're just walking around nothing. A lot of the
Mm.
times in the game from what I experienced. And dude, it does not explain hardly anything of what is actually going on in the world, why you should care. Everything seems confusing. The leveling up is confusing. You even have like factions that you can join in all of this. And I'm like, what in the world is going on?
So it's like Destiny 1 all over again, is what you're really
Yes.
saying.
Even worse, dude. Even worse than
I know,
Destiny
because at
1.
least Destiny had a level progression system until like what was it, level 20 or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was like, all right, now your leveling up is based on your
By the
armor
light.
that you get. I'm like,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And dude, it was just one of those things. The whole time I was like, should I put any more time into this? And
Yeah.
I don't think for anyone that is like, oh, I want to play a game that is going to enthrall me, this is not it. Like, yes, Bungie is the studio that created Halo and created Destiny, but this is neither of those franchises.
And okay, they created Destiny, but it
Mm-hmm.
is a far cry from what it was, when Halo was back in its heyday.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people that created that are no longer with Bungie.
Yeah.
Were no longer with them when they created Destiny, for the most part. And I don't know, man. I've seen the writing on the wall for a very long time that Bungie has, been a shell of its former self, and not even with all the in-office politics, with that weird creator that is like, hey, don't worry about creating this. Look at my car collection.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, there's definitely some weird, strange people working there now, and I think this is reflecting on their art and like how they were wanting to create games. And again, we'll get to it. That's one of our last news articles of the show, but I don't know if they'll go the way of Concord Studio, but it definitely will. The game will not have as long of a lifespan, and we've talked about that's been kind of our prediction, is like maybe a
Yeah.
month or so in that Marathon will be dead.
Yeah, I think, and especially because this is a paid game, this is not a free to play game like
Yeah.
Highguard was, or Concord was
Well,
also a paid.
yeah, I'm about to say same price as Concord, $40 for the Founders Edition.
Yeah, and I think the reason why Helldivers 2 did so well is because you could understand it from the get-go. You knew it was going to be
Mhm.
this tongue-in-cheek, over like hyperalized propaganda kind of
Mhm.
game, but
For democracy.
for democracy, you understood what you were getting into, even if you didn't play Helldivers 1. But
Right.
this game, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. The tutorial was confusing enough. And it's like, oh, well, you got to like manage your health and you got to manage your shield. And I'm like, okay, I understand that. It's kind of like Arc Raiders, or, even
Mhm.
any of the other stuff, plates and Call of Duty and all of that. But dude, it just felt like there was so much stuff that I felt like I was juggling to try to understand. And I like the art style, the color palette, but it felt like there was so much information getting just like shot into my eyes
Yeah.
that it was hard to pay attention what was
It was
going
like
on.
it was like reading the culling game rules, and when you're watching subbed in JJK.
Yes. Don't get Amy started on that. Do not get Amy started on that. But dude,
Uh,
like I feel sad because it's like this is another Jim Ryan decision, and we're about to see the repercussions of that. And
yep.
also it's like I know that they were talking about, I think today, that where, or might have been yesterday, like, well, we're going to talk about it here in a minute, actually,
Yeah.
about some more decisions with some things with Jim Ryan. But dude,
Yep.
I'm very scared for Bungie. I'm scared for all the people that are on that team. I don't want anyone to lose their jobs. I want I want it to be successful, but Derek, I don't see how this game is going to be successful.
No, I don't see it either, man. And unfortunately, like we said, it's another bad decision, a bad product of Jim Ryan, like him forcing this live service thing. And again, obviously Concord was a failure. You know, Highguard is pretty much now closing its doors, essentially. We'll talk more about that later in the show. If this is, you know, on life support already, it seems like maybe, who knows, maybe it's just not a game for you, and maybe it finds its audience that sustains it for a very long time. Who knows? I hope that, because that would result in people not losing their jobs. But if this fails, then it's like, all right, what about Fair Games and Jade Raymond's studio? Like that, we've already speculated that game probably won't see the light of day at this point. But if Marathon fails, then Fair Games is definitely already going to be talked about as the game that's going to be just, you know, it's like just accent. We don't care if you're about ready to launch or you still need another year or two in development. Just kill it.
Well, and my thought on this is PlayStation needs to stop making multiplayer games.
Correct.
Completely.
Like that is not their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and it's like we still are getting 2 Horizon, which makes no sense to me. We're getting 2 Horizon multiplayer games, one that's not even on the PlayStation.
No.
Which, you know, there's a lot of bad decisions going on, and they're trying to ride the ship and everything. But I wanted to try Marathon out just because I have loved Bungie for so long, and it was like, okay, the gunplay feels pretty good, the movement feels good, but everything else about that game, I was just like,
that's where the good stops.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, this is not it, Chief. This is not it.
Right.
To our comments, Amy says, you know me, always on that Animal Crossing grind. Faux show. Joe says, been playing some Marvel Snap again. Oh, dope.
Oh.
I haven't played that in a hot minute.
I know. Same.
And then also been playing Lego Star Wars Story, and we will 100% it. Let's go, man. Let's go. Yeah, dude. They've been playing the Skywalker saga. Just a little less than a month away from Mario 2. I didn't even know that.
Movie?
Yeah, I haven't kept up with it. I haven't kept up with it.
It feels like it's not this year, but I don't know. I didn't ever watch the first one.
Jade the Gamer says, you look like Steve from Minecraft. I'm assuming the Jack Black one. Which one of us, though? Is it me or is it Derek?
It's probably more you, because you've got the hair, you know, up top and the beard.
Well, you have a little bit more gray in your beard than I do. And Jack Black has more gray. I don't know. We'll find out from Jade the Gamer.
Joe has a correction. It's not Skywalker. It's the Complete Saga.
Oh, the Complete Saga. Yeah, okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Why are you trying to trigger me, Derek?
Trigger you how? I guess I missed that.
Dude, you have no... When that episode 3, like Amy lost her mind. Oh my gosh. It was
and even watching it in dub, it still is not that, it still doesn't, you can hear it, you know, explained, but it still doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, and they still, and over the next couple episodes, it's like they still try and bring up rules here and there, like not all of them, but just like several rules, and I'm just like, this is still just seems like a whole jumbled mess.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not just us. Michael, what's up, my man? Hope you're doing well. Guys, let us know what you're playing down in the comments below. I have a light that's blinking, so I apologize for that. So I might see a blinking light. It's, you know, it might be my time. I might be getting called up, you know. Might be getting called up. I don't know.
Congratulations, you are now my new elite employee.
Oh, well, Derek, let's get into what is and what forever will be the gaming discussion. First up, Sony Santa Monica reportedly making an action-focused spinoff focused on Faye, and this is by Tom Phillips at IGN.
God of War developer Sony Santa Monica is reportedly working on a major spin-off focused on Faye, which is Kratos' wife and the mother of Atreus. Whispers of what exactly Santa Monica was working on next have been growing over the past weeks, following an earlier tease by Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier that the studio's next project was, quote, not a new IP, but it might feel like one. Over the weekend, the LinkedIn profile of a writer who worked on the project was widely shared online, describing it as a, quote, new franchise within the God of War universe. Then notorious leaker Nate the Hate stated that the game would center on the character of Faye, something IGN also understands to be accurate. Quote, yes, the game is set within the God of War universe, and the lead character will be Faye, wrote Nate the Hate, who has a decent track record with leaking video game related project information. The current plan is revealed this year and released the first half of 2027, barring any delay. Faye, otherwise known as Lao Fei, is an important character in the story of Santa Monica's Norse God of War titles, and particularly Ragnarok, where she is portrayed by True Blood and Daredevil star Deborah Ann Wall. Santa Monica developing a game focused on Faye would suggest its story will be a 2018 prequel, likely with little appearance from Kratos himself. Now, Zach, I put this first because, this is the only positive news story of the night. And I figured we should always start with the good before we get into the bad. Yeah. I know it's supposed to be the reverse, but because there's more bad, the bad outweighs the good this time. We need to
unfortunately.
And this is what we talked about. Now we talked about, we discussed it may be like the next pantheon that Kratos goes to, or Atreus goes to, or whomever. But like the Egyptian God of War that's been starting to get not heavily rumored, but like it's picking up steam. Yeah. And this is different. It's sort of like, when they were talking about DLC, could it be Atreus and whatnot? And then it ended up being Valhalla, announced at Game Awards. And the Valhalla DLC was widely, positively received. I know you loved it. I know I need to go back and finish it. But it was great. It was a nice callback to the series, because I did get a little bit, I did get further enough to see like the callbacks to the original trilogy and whatnot. But how do you feel about this? Because it seems like God of War is in its prequel era. You know what I mean? Because, we got Sons of Sparta a couple weeks ago, which is like way before the Greece trilogy starts. And now we're seemingly get to where Faye is going to be right before she meets Kratos. I'm assuming it's going to end like, like how we predicted the end of Sons of Sparta will be like him meeting with Ares to form the pact to kill his enemies. Potentially, who knows how that exactly ends, you presume that Faye will end it by meeting Kratos and like falling in love with him and marrying him, having Atreus, all that kind of stuff. But what is your initial reaction? Because again, Jason Schreier has been numerously quoted on it's not a new IP, but it's going to feel like one. So this would be something different. It's we've had other characters introduced in the God of War saga. And we've played as them, but, it's in the same realm as Kratos. This would be the first game that we will play that's not Kratos focused. What are your thoughts on all of this, if it ends up being true?
If it ends up being true, I'm down for this. I wanted to know more about Faye from the beginning of 2018. It was like, who was she? Are we going to see her like setting up all the things that we experienced in 2018 because she knows the future and all of that, with the powers of a giant being able to, possibly shapeshift. I don't know if she has the same powers as Loki and everything, but like, are we going to get some sort of foresight thing? We're of course going to get the Leviathan axe because that was her weapon and everything. So I think there's a lot to explore, because without Faye, not including just Atreus and everything, and essentially the redemption of Kratos, but without her setting up the path for 2018, all the little marks and all of that, and you see that, throughout the whole thing, you wouldn't have what 2018 was.
Exactly. Well, and you think about it too, just because, it starts off with, Kratos taking her to be buried or like burned, essentially, burn the body, and all that journey. And then, like you said, setting up the events of like, to find out who Atreus really is, and then find out like, hey, you need to put Odin to, you need to stop Odin and what he's doing and all this. And you come to find out, because as you journey, because, in Ragnarok, I still remember, I forget what realm it was, but it's like, it was that one that was like way overdone. I felt like they tried to cram too much in this last like big area. but it was like, this is like you're fighting dragons and you're doing all this kind of stuff, but you see that she was heavily influenced in that realm, because you see like how when you fight Thor in Ragnarok, and the hammer and the axe clash, it creates that frozen lightning bolt. You can see Faye did that same thing against Thor
Vanaheim.
in that, yeah, Vanaheim, thank you. And you know, throughout the realm, you kind of get not hinted at, but pretty much told that she's been a freedom fighter, you know, before she met Kratos. So I think we see that expeditions, like how she's helping her kind, like how she's helping other races, you know, overcome Odin's tyranny and whatnot. And I do think, you know, I hope we do get that fight between her and Thor that creates that other frozen lightning beam in Vanaheim. That would be dope to see. That would be dope to have. I don't know, you know, will we get it? Only time will tell, because apparently, supposedly, you know, I know he's a reliable leak because I remember seeing stuff that he's posted about before with other games, obviously, not just God of War, but supposedly it's going to be released, which would line up because Christopher Judge unknowingly leaked that they'll see stuff, you know, from Santa Monica's game late this summer, so probably the state of play, and then it'll get released early to mid next year. So that would be dope. That would be a crazy turnaround to have that right away. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it'd be dope to see. It's like getting more background of a character, because up until the game, if this game is confirmed to be true, we've only heard, you know, we've only seen her wrapped body, and then we've just heard stories. Like, and then of course we see that flashback with her, that beautiful scene between her and Kratos, where you know, he's still overcoming it and talk that great line about grief. You know, that other than that, we really don't, and we really haven't seen Faye a lot and haven't really heard about Faye other than just stories. So I think this would be a great way to tell it. And if this is what Corey has been working on, it will be done right, because if we learned anything, like this has been a story about growth, emotion, you know, just emotional growth, and just learning how to move on from what you've done. You know, like your past actions do not define you, as we've learned with Kratos.
And, you know, looking back and seeing like her journey, like she left the giants like against their will. They didn't want, you know, there was a lot of, I want to see like the political machinations, you know, like, and it might not necessarily be like the inner workings and all of that, but it's like, oh, well, we're doing this to protect us. And it's like, well, we have this foresight and we know that things are going to come. If we don't do something, we're not going to be able to save our kind. You know, it's like, would Agrabota be alive? Would, you know, if, you know, if she didn't leave, then Atreus wouldn't be alive either. And then the shift where, you know, you got Jormungandr and all of that, like none of these things would be going on. And then of course, Ragnarok would not have went the way that it did.
Correct. So,
you know,
I cannot wait. I hope this is true. You know, with everything, with more and more information coming out, like you know, slowly leaking. You know, it seems like it's almost like a Ubisoft thing, where it's just like slowly all but showing, but confirmation. You know, with Bloomberg, with Jason Schreier's thing about, you know, how he describes the Santa Monica game, to, you know, other things that we've reported on. I really hope that this ends up being true, and I trust that, especially if Corey's helming the ship, it will be done right, and it will be an emotional story that will make me feel things that you know, I haven't felt in a long time.
Yeah, and the actress, I loved her in Daredevil. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Deborah Ann Wall.
Yeah, I think she's awesome. So let's do it. I want to see it. I want to see it.
So, well, maybe in summer.
Maybe in summer. Guys, let's talk about all the crappy stuff now. Report.
And that's where the good ends for tonight, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than seeing our smiling faces. Report.
And it's all downhill from here.
Report: Bluepoint pitched a Bloodborne remake, but it was rejected as From Software didn't want it to happen. And this is by Wesley LeBlanc at Game Informer. The original article is by Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg.
So PlayStation shut down Bluepoint Games, the developer behind Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus remakes, earlier this month. Amongst general sadness at the news amongst players, There was also a feeling that the studio would have been the one to finally do something with Bloodborne, ideally a remake considering Bluepoint's pedigree. Now, according to a new Bloomberg report, it turns out Bluepoint did pitch a Bloodborne remake in early 2025, but it was rejected by PlayStation due to From Software's desires. Bloomberg says its sources told it that Bluepoint was told the numbers made sense to remake Bloodborne, but From Software didn't want it to happen. As the report notes, former PlayStation exec Shuhei Yoshida theorized during a Kind of Funny interview last year that From Software president Hidetaka Miyazaki, who directed Bloodborne, was interested in remaking the 2015 action game himself, but was too busy to do so. Yoshida said he doesn't want anyone else to touch it, and that if that's true, he believes PlayStation would respect Miyazaki's wishes, even though PlayStation owns the Bloodborne IP. After that rejection, Bluepoint reportedly pitched an updated version of Shadow of the Colossus, which the studio already remade for PlayStation 4 in 2018, and it was also turned down. Other pitched projects included a Ghost of Tsushima spin-off, among other games set within pre-existing PlayStation franchises, according to Bloomberg, which also reports that employees at the studio began to fear for the company's existence when the God of War Trilogy remake was announced earlier this month, on February 12th, without their involvement. A week later, on February 19th, PlayStation shut down Bluepoint just 5 years after it acquired the beloved studio in 2021. Zach, I get, and you want to also be on the fly on the wall. I don't doubt that, it wasn't genuine that Miyazaki said, he wanted to do it himself, but he just didn't have the time. And it's like, cool, you can be a consultant because, even, why do I blank on names? The head of Naughty Dog.
Neil Druckmann.
Thank you. He was involved in so many things that even he had to take a step back and just be more of a consulting role in season 2 of The Last of Us TV show. Mm-hmm. So it's like you can still be consulted on a beloved IP and still not have time to do it. Like you can let other people in on your baby. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to just gatekeep it essentially. And I also, this is just me. Maybe I tend to be an overthinker sometimes, Zach, as you will know. I also wonder, if this is just I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to disingenuate what Miyazaki did because I do think he does love that IP and he holds it dear. But I also think that maybe he is kind of, like up until Elden Ring and Sekiro, did its thing in one game of the year, like those one game of the years. I think he was just like, PlayStation gets all the tout for this, and it's like I have Dark Souls games, and like they get their respect, but everyone wants Bloodborne, and it's a PlayStation thing. It's like I don't want PlayStation to get that love again. Maybe it's also kind of a little bit of jealousy. Maybe it's also something behind the scenes, spurred some bad blood between the two, and that's why he's saying. But I feel like he would definitely not come out and say it's like, oh, I love the IP so much, but. Again, how many other corporate heads have used word jargon before to make them not seem like the bad guy?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I feel like something is also, playing a factor in this, something akin to that, but I don't know. I'm not, we don't make video games, Zach. We just report on them. And also from the Bluepoint aspect, it seems like they lost their way in this because in a sense of, because let me paint the picture. They kick off with the 2018 Shadow of the Colossus remake. Everyone loved it. It was done so well. It felt like a brand new game. Sony acquired them, and then they did the Demon Souls remake. Well, then they did the Demon Souls
and
remake.
Then they got bought.
And then they got bought, which was a PlayStation 5 launch title, remake of the one that started it all for the Souls-like saga or genre, and everyone ate it up because it was like one of the big titles for PlayStation, and then Sony bought them, and then it was just like, okay, what other remakes you want us to do? And then and then they probably have some other things in the pipeline, but then Jim Ryan comes in like he's doing and Ruining and everything, as we're learning out. It says, hey, we want everyone to do a live service game, and they're like, well, what kind of live service game do we do? We've been the remake studio for so long, and it's like, well, you could do a God of War live service game while the Santa Monica does God of War story games. And they're like, sure, I guess. And then that gets destroyed. And then they're like, oh, let's go back to remakes. And it felt like they got, even before the, the report says, a week before they got announced to be shut down, they felt panicked that the studio wasn't going to be
Yeah.
sustained. It felt like they were panicking way before that, because it felt like they had to pitch another project, and they were just throwing things at the wall. Like, like their Bloodborne was, I think they wanted to put all their chips in the Bloodborne remake, because that was something people were clamoring for, even though some people were like, just give us a 60 FPS version. I'm like, you could do that in a remake. Like, shut your mouth. Just let them cook here. And then when that got turned down, because you got to think, the God of War live service game was probably talked about being canceled at the end of 2024, early 2025, and they're like, hey, let's do this Bloodborne remake. And they're like, no. Miyazaki said no. And they're like, well, what else can we do? Well, let's redo Shadow of the Colossus. I'm like, you already did that. Like, why are you going back to something that you already made beloved? Because I feel like if they did, it would lessen what they did with the 2018 version.
I agree, but we also see what Naughty Dog has done with Last of Us Part 1. We've gotten so many versions of it.
They already remastered Part 2, which wasn't even that old. You know what I mean? I'm like,
no.
What are we doing, guys? And then it's like, well, let's do a spin-off to Ghost of Tsushima. Why? Like, let Sucker Punch do that. I mean, and they're already working on Ghost of Yotei. Like, that would be something, like, why would you? Because that would require Sucker Punch to devote resources to overseeing what they're doing there. And Sucker Punch has already touted that we're a one game studio. It's like, why would you take resources from that and lessen the value of the game that they're focusing on? And then it's like, oh, well, let's do this and that. And it's like, guys, we need you to stop. Like, just stop. We're cutting the umbilical cord. So it felt like Bluepoint got way desperate than a week before the announcement of their closure. Went long before.
Yeah, I feel like they were scrambling, which I totally understand. Like, when you really get down to it, it's like, it makes sense why Bluepoint would be so worried and trying to make things happen. It's like, you get brought on, you're working on God of War Ragnarok, it's a support studio, and then that wraps up, you launch it, it's successful, it makes a lot of money, but you're not the main studio on that project. So you get tasked with God of War live service game. That falls through. And then it's like, okay, well, let's do what we are known for, and that's remaking games. And the one game that people want the most out of all the PlayStation's roster, literally, like, Bloodborne is still like in the, like, I want to say, like, the top 5 full dollar like sales is Bloodborne. So it's like, this is a no-brainer. And then it's like, okay, we own the IP, we've already proven that we can do this style of game with Demon's Souls. This is a no-brainer, and we know people are going to buy it because people have been clamoring for this for so freaking long. And then you get this whole thing twisted because you're wanting Miyazaki. In my Substack post on this, you should go read that article because, your boy wrote it. But my whole thing was like, Miyazaki could be as involved or as little involved as he wanted to be. And PlayStation should have made every concession that needed to happen to make this game, because, dude, they're leaving money on the table. They're literally leaving money on the table. And we're going to get into another thing that they're cutting off a revenue source here in our next story. But it's like, you are literally saying, nah, I'm going to try to play nice with From Software. It's like, From Software is going to put their game on your console regardless. Like, exactly. They're not.
If you're hoping for another console exclusive, I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
I think From Software has realized they can make bank doing. They gave you 2. Yeah. One on the PS4 and then the launch version of the PS5 to give you another exclusive other than Miles Morales. They ain't going to do another one. You know what I mean? Like, and they're giving Switch one. They're even throwing Nintendo a bone and giving them an exclusive Souls-like game. So it's like, it's very sparse what they do. They're not gonna do it again, Chief. I'm sorry.
No, it's just not how they roll. And it's like, you gotta, like, yes, you want to keep people happy and everything, But at the end of the day, you've invested so much money into this studio, which is now dead, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All these people without jobs. But again, this comes down to a man without vision perishes. And it's like once Bluepoint got their legs kind of taken out from them, they never got back up. You know, they never got back up. And I hate it because it's like this would have been the easiest layup. Like fast, like this is a fast break. Like no one's even guarding the goal. And all you like, this wouldn't even have been a layup. This would have been a slam dunk. Vince Carter in his prime. Like, you know, it would have been amazing. But regardless, we bend to the will of someone that doesn't own the IP. And, you know, now we're at the point where we're not getting a Bloodborne game. It's going to be a long time before that ever happens because From Software's got way other things that they can prioritize and get 100% of the money compared to a Bloodborne remake or a sequel where they're only going to get a percentage of it.
It's like George R.R. Martin with finishing Winds of Winter. It's like you're never going to get a Bloodborne remake from Miyazaki. He's too involved in other things to worry about that.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. And like when I saw this at the end of last week, I think it came out on Friday.
Yeah,
I was so mad. I was like, "Why is Friday the tick-off Zach day?"
It's like a few days. It's like a few years ago where we were reporting and like. You know, we had some stuff, but then a bigger story will launch the day after our show, and we're like, "Come on, guys, throw us a bone here."
Well, and it's like, oh, we'll let this go out over the weekend so no one can be ticked off at us. And it's like, you know, Blue Sky and Twitter are still alive over the weekend, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
and plus, you know, people who are pissed off that it's Monday, you know, will be even more ticked off when they read this.
Yeah. So I hate it so much. But it is what it is. But we still got more depressing news. But before we get to that, everybody, make sure that you hit the like button right now because it helps us out a ton. If you're watching over on Substack, TikTok, YouTube, all the place, LinkedIn, all those good places, make sure to hit the like button. We're live each and every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. You don't want to miss it because we talk about all the video game news that you need to know, just like Sony is to pull away from PC gaming. And this is by Wesley Inpool at IGN.
A new report has revealed that both Ghost of Yotei and Soros will remain exclusive to PlayStation 5 as Sony begins to pull back from PC. Bloomberg said that while Sony will continue to release online games on PC, single-player games will now remain console exclusive, making a significant strategy shift. Marking a significant strategy shift. Sony had a strategy of releasing its PlayStation games on PC sometime after they hit console. This new policy marks a return to console exclusivity at a time when console rival Microsoft is all in on multi-platform. So expect to see fighting games like Marvel Tokon on PC as well as PS5, and of course Bungie's extraction shooter Marathon remains a multi-platform release. Meanwhile, the Sony published but externally developed Death Stranding 2 and Kena Scars of Cosmora will launch on PC, but plans to release Sucker Punch's Ghost of Yotei were recently scrapped, Bloomberg said. Bloomberg suggested poor recent sales of PlayStation games on PC and the risk to the PlayStation brand, as well as a potential impact on PS5 and maybe even PS6 sales, were to blame for the policy shift. Meanwhile, Bloomberg suggested the prospect of PlayStation games running on the next Xbox, which looks like it will run PC games, may have also encouraged Sony's return to console exclusives. There's no mention of Marvel's Wolverine in the report, but given the timing of its release, which is due out on PS5 exclusively this September, a PC launch now seems unlikely. Sony has in recent years expanded PlayStation to PC, but refrained from going as far as Microsoft, which releases all its games on PC at the same time as console. Sony, however, has employed a staggered approach to releasing its single-player PlayStation games on PC after a period of console exclusivity. When it comes to live service games like Helldivers 2, it's a different story, with Sony publishing a PC on PC day one, and in the case of Arrowhead's third-person action game, to record-breaking success. Indeed, Sony-owned Bungie is about to launch live service extraction shooter Marathon across PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S at the same time. Guerrilla's live service multiplayer Horizon spin-off Hunter's Gathering is also planned for a PC release. And so initially, because there was rumblings, right, of them like I think it was like middle of last week, um, them pulling back from PC, and now this is just pretty much like all but confirming the report. And I get it. You know what I mean? Like it does suck because I do think it's another revenue stream for the devs. So now it's like putting more pressure on the first party studios to basically make hits because this is going to be their only source of income for the foreseeable future. You know, until PlayStation changes their minds again. But also, it's like you're losing player base because, or like people who are getting interested because people who are only PC were like, again, people who are PC are mainly PC. Like, there's a scant few who have PC and consoles. You know what I mean, and vice versa. Like, I have we both have PlayStations, but I don't play on PC. So it's just too time consuming for me, and it's just like I have PC for other things to do. I get it, but I also get that the bottom line, right? Like, so at the end of the day, it's a business. And if Sony is seeing that this is not paying dividends and it's not a great ROI, then why are we keep investing in resources in making a porting our games over for not that much of an increased revenue stream? However, that being said, I do feel, because I was watching Kind of Funny this morning and they brought this up and I didn't even consider it. That means now, hopefully, it doesn't mean this. Maybe they turn into a support studio like Raven Software. But what does this mean for Nixxes? Because they bought them several years ago to port PC games, from console to the PC. So what happens to them? I think the worst is that they're going to be the next studio that closes. But I hope that they just, after shutting down Bluepoint, even though people would more understand that what Nixxes is, but in an industry that is closing studios left and right, laying mass layoffs left and right every day. I mean, we report on it every week. There's some type of layoffs, whether it's a story or in the quick hits, that they don't close them and they use those resources elsewhere. Like, again, even if it's just a support studio, like go help Santa Monica on the God of War remake, or go help Guerrilla on Hunter's Gathering. Do something. You know what I mean? Like, have them do something. Don't just put them out to pasture like you did Bluepoint a few weeks ago. Sound.
I hope Nixxes survives. Nixxes survives. I don't want to see another PlayStation studio be closed, because my God, they have closed so many since they went on an acquisition run, and it's like it. Greg said it's like PlayStation shoots themselves in the foot and Xbox shoots themselves in the head. So it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, what is Xbox going to do tomorrow to to outdo this kind of decision? But I was looking at the running the numbers and everything while you were talking. So this is, over the last 3 years, they've averaged about 1.35 billion over the last 3 years. So fiscal year 2022, 250 million, fiscal year 23, 450 million, fiscal year 24, 650 million. So we don't have 25 yet.
Right.
So that is a good chunk of money. Let's just say they've been able to rake in $2 billion over like the last few years with a B. That is a huge amount of money to just say, we're good, we don't need it. And they're wanting to leverage their console player base to make up for that. So what does that mean? That means we're going to see increased cost of PlayStation Plus. We're going to see, maybe, I hope not, that it's going to cost more to buy PlayStation games, where we go up to $80.
I hope not either. And
you know what I mean?
And I do. And thinking about it too, it's like they're worried that they'll cut their legs off, with PS5 and potentially PS6 sales. And I'm like, And I'm sitting here thinking, I get it. Like, it's valid. Like, they want
Yeah.
as many consoles in homes as possible. At the same time, what have we talked about time and time again? They lose money on consoles where they make it up as software. And if you put your software, even if it's on a different platform like PC or whatever, if you put that on another platform and that's more revenue, like you talked about, that's 2 billion, averaging 2 billion roughly a year or whatever, and it's like you rake that in extra. How much more can you put that into R&D? How much more can you give that to your studios to make better games? And it's like, I know it's a crazy concept.
No, budgets are too big, Derek. It's too big. It costs like $200 to $300 million to launch Spider-Man 2, which is crazy.
Right.
It's a crazy cost. So they're not going to give more to studios. They're going to just keep on shaving it down. Like Greg said, Herman Holst is walking over to Nixus with a shotgun and he's about to take him out, you know?
Yeah. And I don't know, man. Like, I get where they're going with that, but I also don't get that argument with the whole cutting off the console sales, because again, you make up the lost revenue in hardware because you want to sell them consumer friendly, or at least they did. Now there's no telling, it's not going to be consumer friendly no matter how you dice it, but they're still going to lose money on the hardware, and you make it up with software sales. So the focus, crazy to say this, Zach, but the focus should be on games and making sure the most amount of gamers can buy your games. Like, it's crazy to talk about. I know it's an asinine concept, but I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, okay, we're definitely going to see the PlayStation 5 price go up. That's going to be another thing. But it's like you're punishing people coming in. And you're also seeing like how that's affected Xbox, because last year they raised the price twice on the Series X and S. And it's like that we saw PlayStation also raise their prices last year once. Mm-hmm. But it's like, how are you going to make up for that amount of money? You know what I mean? And it's like Hunter's Gathering is not going to make that money, and neither is Tokon Fighter is not going to. It just or Marathon. Like Marathon's definitely not going to make its budget back. Came out today and everybody's already dogging it, and it's just sad to see. And I understand the reasoning. They don't want to cut their nose off to spite their face. They don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul, that kind of deal. Totally understand that. I am all for Sony focusing on first party games and making great games. But I think the reason why we saw less and less interest as the PC ports went on is because it was so sporadic. There was no, oh, it's going to be 6 months and it's going to come out, or it's going to be a year and then it's going to come out. And there was a lot of times where there was a PC port to something and there was little to no kind of advertisement. There wasn't a real big push around it. And like, we're of course getting Death Stranding this month, Death Stranding 2, I think on the 11th is when it's coming out on PC.
I thought it was the 19th, but
one of those days.
Regardless, it's middle of March.
And it's like, that's exciting because I know Death Stranding 2 is freaking amazing. I love that game. So it's like, now we're going to see, okay, how well is Death Stranding 2 going to do? Because I'm pretty sure Death Stranding 1 did well. I know God of War did well over on the PC, both of them. And it's just like, I think knowing the cycle that needs to happen and which games actually deserve to be ported.
Yeah, exactly. Like, port your big ones. Like, you don't, and this is gonna sound asinine to say because we both love the game and it won Game of the Year. You don't want to port Astrobot over there. You want to port the ones that are gonna entice PC gamers. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man, like a Ghost of Tsushima, like Horizon. Like you could go on and on. So
and I know Spider-Man 2 didn't do well as a port. So
that's right. Yeah, because as far as like performance wise, correct?
Performance, but it didn't sell well over on there. So it's like, You got to know, but it's like you literally invested in a studio for ports, and now you're,
Right.
you know, it just feels like a lot of weird decisions that are going on. And again, I know a lot of this is coming down to we're trying to right the ship from the decisions that Jim Ryan made.
From the dark days.
Yeah. And like, kind of funny you said it well. It's like you can look at a lot of the things that have gone wrong in PlayStation, and it all stems back to Jim Ryan.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, look at. I don't think it was as bad. It was just a bad marketing push in this aspect, right? Look at Don Matrick. Look at how much. Oh my God! Phil Spencer had to come in and
yeah,
right the ship to just make Xbox like put Xbox on people's radar again. You
yep,
know what I mean?
yep,
As far as like, because as soon after that E3 presentation, it was such Xbox was a punchline. You know, it was like Call of Duty dogs, dogs, TV, TV, TV. You know, that whole marketing push for the Xbox One was just a punchline, and no one took them seriously anymore, and turned a lot of fans off by being like always online and this, that, and the other. And then Phil Spencer came in and it's like, let's just focus on games
yeah.
and just let people be gamers. And everyone was like, huzzah, someone who gets it.
It's crazy, you know, when you sell a gaming console and you focus on the people that buy gaming consoles, which are gamers, because my God, Derek, if you're going to watch TV, you're not watching it on your, you know, you're not buying a PlayStation 5, a, you know, 700, well, I don't even know how much a PlayStation 5 is anymore. You know, $700 console or whatever, Xbox Series X, an $800 console just to watch Netflix. It's like you can get a freaking Roku stick, or,
Correct.
you know, like it's like a
or
fire
just get
stick.
any smart TV that has Netflix built into it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
it's
for way cheaper.
Yeah, it's insane to think that kind of way. And thankfully a lot of that has shifted, but
in this case, like Jim Ryan, it's like he was chasing a trend, and it's like he got caught up in it. He got enamored with it, and he's like put a proverbial gun to every studio's head, and it's like, you will do this whether you like it or not. And now Sony's just kind of trying to sweep up the pieces and clean up the mess, and being like, can we just get back to making great action games?
gun to your head. Live service games. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But dude, like it just and if you look, like you said, chasing the trend, this like clicked in my brain. You look at any kind of trends that have happened in gaming, the ones that set the trend and the ones that chase the trend. The ones that chase the trend never make the money who set the trend.
Nope.
Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how talented you are, you never catch up to the trend setter. MMOs, no one has ever done it better than WoW. No one has ever made more money than WoW. Open world games, nobody's ever done it as good as GTA. There's been a lot of great open world games, but everybody tried to do that, and then everybody tried
no
to
one puts a life on pause like they do for GTA for other games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's just another thing. Stop chasing trends, game developers. For the love of God, stop it. Do something
Be the
interesting.
Trendsetter.
Like if you look at like the Clear Obscura team, if they chased a trend, we would have got a crappy game.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't have won Game of the Year. We wouldn't even be talking about Sandfall Interactive at all. Like it would have been like Concord Studio. It would have just came like a fart in the wind and then just left.
Yeah, and if Hideo Kojima chased trends, he wouldn't be Hideo Kojima.
Well, yeah, I'm about to say Hideo Kojima has never. You want to talk about someone who goes against the grain?
Yeah,
Kojima is the poster boy for that.
1,000%. I do have one. Well, not necessarily correction, but earlier you said Shuhei Yoshida. You didn't say Full of Grace, Derek.
I'm sorry, Shuhei Full of Grace.
What's funny is in my Substack article, I literally have Shuhei Yoshida and then in like blocks Full of Grace right beside it. I was like, gotta give the man his due.
You're 100% right. So,
well, let's talk about one last thing. Highguard has become the next Concord. Highguard to permanently shut down on March the 12th.
And this is by Adam Bankhurst at IGN. Wildlight has announced that it will permanently be permanently shutting down Highguard on March 12th, which is literally a week from today. Before then, it will release one final update that adds a new warden, a new weapon, account level progression, and skill trees for those who want to get their final matches in. Wildlight shared the news on Twitter, saying, "Today we're sharing difficult news. We have made the decision to permanently shut down Highguard on March 12th. Since launch, more than 2 million players stepped into Highguard's world. You shared feedback, created content, and many believed in what we were building. For that, we are deeply grateful. Despite the passion and hard work for our team, we have not been able to build a sustainable player base to support the game long term. So, servers will remain online until March 12th. We hope you'll jump in with us one more time to show your support and get those final great matches in while we still can. The team is excited to release one final game update to enjoy in the remaining life of the game. We'll be adding a new warden, a new weapon, account level progression, and skill trees. Full patch notes are coming, and we're targeting tonight or tomorrow morning for patch release. From all of us at Wildlight, thank you for playing, for supporting us, and for being part of Highguard's story. So, it, you know, you hate to see it, and I know this game has had a very weird release slash reception. I know it all started with the one final thing at Game Awards um, this past December, and everyone was like, "What is this?" You know, and
Yep.
like so, you know, like it vibed with some people, but you know, it was just like the whole stigma behind it is like this is the final thing, you know, because you want the final thing to be a banger. And again, I think Jeff had no ill will, you know,
Yep.
in showing this and like pushing for them to be at Game Awards. Do I think he should have put him at the last final thing? Probably not. But I generally think he was enamored with what he played and he wanted to show the world and be like, hey, like any people who like this style of game like I do, you should try this game out. And you know, there's been reports come out since then. It's like, should we have done it? You know, like cursed if you do, cursed if you don't type of thing, as we've discussed. You know, it's a catch 22. And, you know, then the whole thing with Tencent coming out backing them and then pulling backing. And I think it was reported that someone talked to someone at Highguard or the Wildlight and saying, it's like, oh no, we're funding this. And it's like, oh, that's not going to be sustainable. And then, of course, they had mass layoffs like a week or so ago, and
Yep.
they were down to 20 people working on a And again, if they were just working on a single player game and just putting out patches, 20 people is doable. But you're working on a multiplayer game that you're trying to create a roadmap for and like talk about like have all these promises to fulfill with updates and all that kind of stuff. 20 people's not going to get the job done.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like it's not going to. And I know we'll get into an article here in just a second that talks a little bit more about maybe why, it kind of went the way it did. But Zach, what are your initial thoughts? Like, again, this is pretty much following the Concord trend, right? Like I know it probably will not have a $2 or $300 million budget like Concord did. Probably didn't have that same cash flow. But again, it only lasted a couple weeks and now it's going offline. And it is crazy to think. Now, obviously, Concord came out immediately and said, oh, we're going to issue refunds or, what have you. They have not said that. Maybe they will in the next day or two. But what is your thoughts? I know neither one of us cared for, Highguard, but what is your overall thoughts on this?
Well, one, I hate that a game has failed and is, we're already saw, a lot of people laid off. The player count and everything dropped by 90%. Yeah. And that says a lot about a game. And I know a lot of people wanted to save the game, but we are here now. And man, from January, I think it says in here, it launched in January, like the end of January. So a little over a month, really, when you get down to it, that they were live.
I thought it launched in February, but I mean, no, I could be wrong.
It was late January. It was like the 25th or something like that. So a little over a month, you're live, and you see your game kind of just drop off to nothing.
Yeah.
And that is a testament to what people want to play. They don't want to play a game that feels like another game, that looks like a botched version of another game. You know what I mean?
Especially it's in the same genre as like you talking about. I don't want to say it was a trendsetter, but like Overwatch. It
Yeah.
defined the hero shooter, and it made an update to where it just dropped the 2, and it pretty much reinvented itself and like just put a fresh coat of paint. But it brought players back, especially when in the midst of your release, they do Overwatch does this and brings players back in in masses essentially to bring your game back. Now, and it just takes away, just takes the breath out of your lungs type deal.
Yeah, and I haven't kept up with Overwatch and everything. I'm glad, like I know they added like a few more characters, and I didn't even know that they dropped the 2 and all of that. But it goes to show you that if you have the funding, you can keep it going for a while. But they at least had a player base. That all being said, I feel like live service games are they're like the NFTs of the gaming world right now. It's you are setting yourself up for failure. Okay, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly. And Zach, I thought about this over the weekend, because again, like this story broke, over the weekend or like Monday, or it came out Monday, but I was thinking about this over the last couple days since the weekend. I'm like, long are the day. It's crazy to think that you would long for the days of us, complaining and getting on our soapboxes about loot boxes. You know what I mean? That was the biggest issue with the gaming community at that time. Especially
when
we recorded on multiple times. It was bad. It was invasive. I get, but I would almost prefer this to the live service stuff, and and the studio closures. Like, I would much rather discuss that at this point in our career than what we're reporting on. Because I was thinking about this too, man. It's like such a sad state that the industry's in that only 3. I know we just hit March. This is our first episode of March, and we're still early in the year, but we've only had 3 episodes where we've actually talked about games.
Yeah.
Or at least like the rest has been negative, like closures, people leaving, layoffs, bad trends, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I would much rather talk about loot boxes because at least it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It got to a certain point, but it never got, too bad.
Yeah.
Which, that microtransactions, those have always been the bane of my existence. But like, again, I agree with you. I would rather fight that than the live services that we've been dealing with, the studio closures, the layoffs, the crazy acquisitions, and then, just
the fallout from it.
Yeah. Nate says hero shooters are lame.
They had their time in the sun, but I kind of agree now. Like the last one that tried to make it tried to fuse like hero shooter and battle royale was Apex Legends.
Yeah, like for me, Derek, I there's just so many other cool things to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah.
There is
just so much more. So much more. I hate it, Derek. I hate it so much, though. I hate it so much. We've got one last little tidbit about Highguard
that may lean into why.
Yeah. Highguard dev says the shooter leaned too far into the competitive scene, and that turned a lot of players off. And this is by Vicky Blake at IGN.
That's according to former Wildlight developer and level designer Alex Grainer, who told Quad Damage podcast that developers don't strive to create something that doesn't work out throughout development. Wildlight really leaned into the competitive side of it, and that was always one of my biggest fears as a player. I can only speak to my side of it as a level designer, but when I joined Wildlight, I was trying to figure out this new ambitious game, and this team is always pushing the boundaries. Grenier said, as transcribed by PCGN via Eurogamer. You don't strive to create something that doesn't work out, but it happens, unfortunately. Throughout development, we really leaned into the competitive side of it, and that was always one of my biggest fears as a player. 3v3 duos is always the sweatiest version of anything like Battle Royale. Objective modes, Wingman, and you know it, you name it, it requires such a high intensity of communication with your team and team play that it doesn't leave much room for casualness. I think that was the biggest thing that turned a lot of players off Highguard, he added. The issue, Grainer believes, is that Highguard had all these different rules and stages, which made it difficult for players who don't already have a team to play with, and particularly challenging for new players. It's like, oh, you want to loot? Now you've got to choose this objective. Now we have to plant this objective. Now it's overtime. It has all these rules, which I think works at a really high level, but when players are first coming in, it's a lot to grasp. On top of all that, because it was a 3v3, that kind of game just requires high skill movement and shooting, which is already a pretty high bar to entry as well. So if you just have a few bad games or your teammates aren't sticking together, you're just going to get rolled, and it's very hard to 1v2 in our game. It's all designed to be a team-based shooter. I think that was the biggest thing. People just kind of turned it off because they don't have the team. So I get it, right? Like, again, when you're in this live service, you have to find your niche and roll with it. You have to kind of give players a reason as to why you're not only different from the next live service game, but why people should care about your game just in general, right? It's like, oh, we've got this. And it is very hard to be, again, team-based anything, whether it was Call of Duty back in the day, Halo, when you're, especially like Capture the Flag, King of the Hill, it is tough to do it as a team-based thing because you got to have, not perfect, but, like good coordination, good communication, people who are, not sweaty boys, but, like, have competent skill, like aren't just in there to just goof off, and just like not, troll people. So, and that's what happens when you play with randoms. Like, you have randos that you get paired with because a lot of the lobbies are skill based, and if you're new, they're going to pair you with the newbies or the people that are just there to goof off. So it's very tough, and that's multiplayer games, especially for when you get to our age, Zach, is like you work your typical 9 to 5 or like your retail jobs. You come home, you want to relax, and the last thing you want to do is go on there, play a sweaty boy who just rickrolls you and sends you very lovely messages about like, oh, you're trash and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, cool, I wanted to decompress and just have fun, but I guess I'll just go off and watch anime or do something, like go do something else, rather than play video games. So no one wants to deal with that a lot anymore. So it is hard just in general to be in that competitive market. But if this is true that this is like this was wanting to be their big push, I don't want to knock it, but also it's like you're a new IP and you're a newer studio. Like if this was like Bungie, right? Like coming in and wanting to really get in the competitive space. It's like, okay, you have the pedigree, you have the chops because you've done Halo, you've done Destiny, you've done competitive multiplayer shooting games, so this makes sense for you. But why would you immediately, your first game out the gate that we know of, I don't know what else Wildlight has done, but it's like your first game out the gate is a multiplayer hero shooter live service game, and it's like you want to go put all your chips in and be like, let's go ultra competitive, and it's like really lean into the strategy, the team base, the teamwork, all that kind of stuff, and it's like, so you don't have anything else, you don't have easier modes, you don't have modes where there's a learning curve for new players, or like you're just gonna throw them in and you're gonna treat it as the Dark Souls of live service games and just basically like get good,
Yeah, like you look at the uber successful live service games or just multiplayer games in general. Let's take Call of Duty, not Warzone, but just regular Call of Duty. You have Deathmatch, Slayer, whatever you want to call it. You have Team Deathmatch, you have Domination, and you have Search and Destroy. You have Kill Confirmed. Those are the basic modes. Those are so easy to understand. Domination, you have 3 points. The more points you have, the faster you earn points. Like if you have A and B, you earn more points. You have A, B, and C, you earn more points. You're trying to get to a certain threshold. But watching Highguard, like, it was an interesting looking game, but it was like, okay, we've got to move this thing forward. We got to kill and we got to loot stuff, and then you can get ore. And then like I was watching Mike and I think Andy playing it, and it was like, okay, this is interesting, but it's like you're limiting it to a 3v3 thing. And it's like when you like that works for Destiny because it's still basic kind of gameplay. It's like we're capturing these points or we're killing each other. It wasn't crazy stuff. But this was crazy stuff. The maps were huge, and it's like, you're riding a jaguar, and then this person's got a bear, and you've got all these skills, and it's like, how can you get good at this game when you're constantly juggling all this stuff? You know, it just doesn't work. And if there was a more if it was 5v5 or a 6v6 kind of thing where it was a little bit more casual, this would have probably done way better. Because you look at, let's talk about Overwatch. They went from a 6v6 to a 5v5, and people hated it because it put more strain on each player to have to really play within their role. Then they went back to 6v6. So it's like, you should look around in the space and see who does it well, and learn from why did they decide to do this? Because you look at every freaking Call of Duty, Derek. Yeah, they always have a story. It's not always great, but when you look at multiplayer, they don't stray from what they know works.
Correct.
They have new maps, but they don't stray from the four to six things. They know what their
bread and butter is.
Yeah, and that's what people expect. And they've got a competitive league. They've got all these things because they know what works. This didn't work.
Nope. So, and it's sad to see because, again, there was probably talented people there, people who really believed in the vision of what they were creating. And now that they're laid off, and now the last 20 people who were there now have to pretty much are closing the doors. I know the game is just going offline, but this is going to be the next step, is those last 20 people are going to just be out of a job, unfortunately.
Yeah. They're gonna close it for sure. Nate says, I'm just an old man yelling at clouds. I know the youngins like live service games. Just give me good old RPGs nowadays. I feel you. I'm all about a good RPG. It's like,
or just a good game in general.
Yeah, that too. But the game that you've been eating ice cream is an RPG, Derek.
Yeah, that's true.
Expedition 33. We're changing you, Derek. We're slowly changing you.
I know.
Well, everybody, it's time for the Patreon Quick Hits. The Patreon Quick Hits are brought to you by our wonderful patrons. Go support the Nerd Cave by getting your very own Nerd Cave membership to help us continue to make awesome shows just like this one. You're helping a 1.5 person business keep the lights and mics on. Pick a tier that fits best for you. If you don't have any bucks to toss, that's okay too. You can become part of the ship, part of the crew by getting a free membership or a membership that makes Derek holler because you're throwing that dollar. Go over to patreon.com/nerdcave and get your subscription today. Now for the Patreon Quick Hits.
First up, a franchise we haven't heard of in a while, Wolfenstein 3 Casting Call reveals performance capture is set to begin later this year and run into 2027. Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 director says switching to Unreal Engine 5 would have risked our own progress being stalled. Warner Brothers Discovery teases 2027 to 2020 and 2028 will see the return of some of its biggest franchises. Sure, I think that was just to fluff themselves up to get bought, but we'll see what they do. Nvidia admits graphics card shortage isn't ending anytime soon. You can now access God of War Sons of Sparta multiplayer challenge mode if you input a secret code. Stage Tour is a spiritual successor to Guitar Hero from Red Octane Games. Team Asobi is hiring for its next project and mentions fun gameplay mechanics in job listing. Let's go. Fun gameplay mechanics in job listing. That's crazy, Zach. Why isn't it a live service game? Come on now. Get with the times. Chase that trend. Sony confirms upgraded PSSR is rolling out for PS5 owners in coming weeks, while Resident Evil Requiem is the first game to use it. Game Boy-shaped Pokemon soundtrack player has been announced. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is coming to the Switch 2 this month. Pokemon Champions launches on Switch in April and will come to mobile later this year. Pokemon Winds and Waves, which is Gen 10, are arriving next year, and I can't wait to see, what that does. I haven't played a Pokemon game in a very long time, but I'm always intrigued when they go to another, like, do a new region and just see what kind of creations of Pokemon they come up with. Resident Evil was originally in development for the SNES back in the day. Despite the game already being out, the Resident Evil amiibo figures won't release until July 30th. Resident Evil Requiem launches big on Steam and breaks series record. Following that, Capcom trumpets successful Resident Evil Requiem launch, and 5 million copies have already been sold, and the game's only been out since Friday. Wild. It's almost like if you make a great game, people will buy it. Weird. Nintendo advises Switch 2 Resident Evil Requiem owners to download day one patch before playing. Doom the Dark Ages game director says upcoming DLC is huge and basically like a sequel. Watch Dogs Legion could reportedly receive a director's cut style release with new content. And I just want to put out who was asking for that, because Legion was not great from what I remember when it launched, and it kind of launched to a dull roar. Rumor, Assassin's Creed Hex, or Hexy, however you pronounce it, release is targeting holiday 2027 and includes overhauled combat system, because how many times can they overhaul an Assassin's Creed combat system at this point? Starfield PS5's rumored April 7th release date has been corroborated by another insider. Polyphony Digital is hiring for a new Gran Turismo game. Let's go. Call of Duty announces Black Ops Royale, a new Warzone Battle Royale mode inspired by Blackout. God of War series casts 4 more characters, which include Magni, Modi, Thrud, and Gina. Resident Evil 1 remake has reportedly entered production at Capcom. Blueprints is out now on the Switch 2. Max and Chloe have been cast in Amazon Prime's Life is Strange TV series. Nintendo announces 3 retro Mario games returning for Mario Day. That's going to be March 10th. Call of Duty leaker hit with legal demand, while Activision insists even wrong leaks hurt devs and mess with players' expectations. To that I say, the players' expectations are on them, to an extent, unless the studio overpromises those expectations. But The Sims 4 will open an official marketplace to let content creators sell mods for a share of money. Pokemon Pokopia becomes the highest rated Pokemon game of all time. Let It Die is ending its service on September 1st, but will relaunch as Let It Die Offline Edition this fall. Rumor, Resident Evil Requiem DLC will feature Leon instead of Alyssa Ashcroft. Atomic Heart's final DLC, Blood on Crystal, is locked for an April 16th release date. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake, all but confirmed as Ubisoft teases its existence in new update. Assassin's Creed Unity 60 FPS patch hits PS5 and Xbox today. And again, who asked for it? Just saying. Unity, buggy mess, and then when it got fixed, still wasn't a great game, just because it wasn't a good Assassin's Creed game. Whatever. Lastly, Microsoft patent allows for AI or another human to swoop in and help complete your game.
I said, I mute so I'm not breathing in the mic. I said, that's what I want, because I want an AI to swoop in and to finish a game for me.
I mean, why should people finish games nowadays? You know what I mean? Like, just let people do it for you.
Why would you do that? That's so stupid. So get on a different level, y'all. Come on. Yeah, man. I'm excited for a lot of things, though, Derek. I'm excited for a lot of things.
That Doom the Dark Ages DLC.
Dude, that's going to be freaking awesome.
I mean, if it's going to be big enough to be almost like a sequel, that's insane.
Yeah, that excites me a lot.
It says it's upcoming, so that means it's probably this year.
Yeah, means I might actually get Game Pass again, just so I can play it and everything. Because man, I know I need to finish the thing anyway, just because it's such a good game and I enjoyed the mess out of it. But Derek, I don't know if you have seen it. I'm pretty sure you have. But have you seen the God of War image from the TV show? Have you seen that?
Yes, I have. I've seen that.
Yeah. I'm going to pull it up for everybody here in just a second. But I wanted to talk about that real quick for everybody, since that came out last week. And I do want your thoughts and opinions on this. So everybody can see. So this is what we got, our first little sneak peek at God of War TV show. Derek, what do you think about this?
Again, without like the rendering and like the like the finished product for production, we can only speculate so much. I want to see like it rezzed up, it like have all this all the digital stuff in there. I'm not sold yet on Ryan Hurst. Like this look, like of course, like the costume. I think like the costumes are on point. I do agree with that. I think it is video game accurate, but I don't know if I agree with Ryan Hurst's build because it's almost like it's like a fusion of. It's like if Kratos and Thor did the fusion dance, and it's sort of like met in the middle. And maybe just because he's hunched over a little bit. I don't know. Atreus.
He doesn't feel ripped enough, and
right.
I'm nowhere near that physique. I'm not dogging on him or anything. It just doesn't feel like Kratos.
Right. And and Joe brings up is like Atreus looks a little too young to me. I get it, but also as we've seen in Hollywood, young actors age fast. Once they start hitting that puberty and that growth spurt, they age fast. So I think they wanted to cast super young because whenever they get to the next season in like Ragnarok, because we saw like Sonny Soljic, who voices Atreus in the video games, like how much he changed from when 2018 launched to when Ragnarok, and that was only a 4-year difference. How much he grew up and how much his voice changed, and they kind of had to plan around that. So I think that from Hollywood's perspective, they had to kind of follow that trend. It's like, let's undercast him a little bit just to save ourselves from so that way if we cast a little bit older and then he looks like almost like a grown adult by the time we shoot season 2, we can cover ourselves.
Yeah, because you look at like Stranger Things and all of that, they look like they're 40 at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But that was also on Netflix because they took way too long, but I digress.
Oh yeah.
But it also is like, the one knock I will say, it's like he looks like he can barely pull his bow back. So it's like I want to know how they will portray his strength. I know he wasn't super strong in either game, but especially 2018, he was kind of like very not weak, but very like compared to Kratos, like definitely Kratos was carrying that load in 2018. So I don't know. We'll only time will tell, Zach.
Yeah, Nate says should have got Henry Cavill for Kratos. Dude, I would have loved Henry for it, but I don't think he could pull off the...
No. Like, the physique I get, but also, like, the acting chops and, like, just that commanding presence. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think he's got the... Like, he has a stoic side to him because he did play The Witcher really well.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I love Henry Cavill, though. He's one of my favorite actors out there. But yeah, dude, I saw this and I was just like, this looks like someone's really good cosplay.
You know what? That's an accurate statement.
It's like, oh, this dad and his kid, like really, really good cosplay. You know what I mean? It's like, man, that looks awesome. I'm glad for them. But when it was like, oh, this is the show, it's like, I'm like, okay, we need a Sonic moment here. Let's get this to look the way it should,
And I know, like the Last of like I haven't watched season 2 of Last of Us, right? But I've watched season 1, and I know they took some liberties in that TV show because again, making a TV show versus a game format is way different. Well, to certain degrees, but it's also like you look at the casting, like the casting for that we just talked about, like Magni Modi, but then it's like Thrud wasn't introduced until Ragnarok, and then like Thor was teased at the end, but you didn't see him, but also Odin. It's like Odin wasn't in the game until Ragnarok, but they're being cast for season 1, and they're kind of, you assume they're following the 2018 story. So now, unless it's something like, like they give like a Odin perspective as like he's reacting to things that are going on, it's like, as Kratos is coming out, it's like, well, who is this? Like, I sense godly power, like talking about like That so it's like if they're giving like a behind the scenes type of thing where they're just showing like Odin reacting to this in real time what they're doing, that'd be cool and that I could get down with. But it's like, why are you already introducing Ragnarok characters in the story of 2018?
Koshi brings up a Anatolius Kratos, but without his mom. Have you seen those videos?
No, I haven't.
So it's this dude. He's like I think he's. Let me look up again. He's a Ukrainian power lifter named Vladimir Shamanadinko.
Yeah.
And he dresses up like a janitor, and he's like watching these like lifters like lift these huge weights, and like he like starts making fun of them, and they're like. And dude, he looks like this like skinny, scrawny dude. And they're like, dude, like, shut up, like, leave us alone. And then he's like, can I? And then he hands his mop, and his mop is like super heavy. And they grab the mop and like it like jerks them down. And then he like grabs their weight and just like just like makes a fool of them. And those videos are my favorite. Those videos, I think Anatoly would be awesome for that. But yeah, I hope we get a little bit more definition. You know, again, I'm not buff, you know what I mean? I got padding around everything. But it's like if you're going to play this character, like this needs to not look like cosplay. It needs to look like the real deal, because when you look at Last of Us, you look at Rings of Power, like everything looks great. And it's like this, it's like it's a start, but it isn't there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is by Amazon, correct?
Yeah. Then that's why.
So it's not like it's some indie studio that's starting it up. Like they have money for a budget.
Yeah, and it's like Rings of Power, they spent $2 billion just on the first season.
Wow.
Yeah. So in like Rings of Power is great. Like the CGI, everything looks amazing. And it's like this will make you gangbuster money. And we need to see that same diligence in there.
Right.
So it's a 32 kilogram mop.
Woof.
I don't know what that is in pounds. Let's do let's see. What is 32 kilograms in pounds? Whisperflow AI, everybody. It's the best thing. I can type faster than ever. 70.5 pounds. So it's not super heavy, but when you're not expecting a mop to be that heavy, and you're like, oh, what the crap? But it's great. I love Anatoly. But yeah, that's it, everybody. That is our show tonight. 32 times. Don't tell me math. Don't Anatoly for Balder.
That would be great.
Don't we have a Balder already?
Yeah, Baldur's been cast. It's Ed Screen or whoever it is.
I don't know. I don't know his name. LeBron James. That's all I know.
LeBron James.
All right, everybody. We'll be back on Tuesday, because Tuesday is Ghost of Yotei Shadows.
Changing it up.
We're going to play some of that. We might jump into some Expedition, but Shadows is definitely on the board to play. So, guys, thank y'all so much for being here. This has been Zach.
And Derek.
Y'all have a blessed week. Bye-bye.